Hey, good morning, everybody. My name's Arwen Lewis. You're listening to the Arwen Lewis radio show. I'm here under the Jeremiah show platform, and my radio show and podcast features independent and local musical artists, recording artists, touring musicians, and we feature recordings that they've made in the past, upcoming recordings, talk about their careers in the music business and their paths in music. Today, I have a very special guest band. This is Firebug, and you can find out more about Firebug at firebugmusic.com under Firebug Music on all the social media platforms. And they're a desert rock band from Joshua Tree, California. Their musical vibe is a fusion of 60s Woodstock era Delta blues, New Orleans, and Desert Noir. Their roots are in Chicago, and they also made an impact in the Los Angeles music scene, spent some time in New Orleans, and now in the desert. We're here talking today and playing some songs from their latest release, No Return. In regards to this release, there's a quote from YMX London that says, "Creating something new in rock is becoming more and more difficult. However, what Firebug has accomplished here is nothing short of impressive in every definition of the word." So welcome, Firebug, Jules and Juliet. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the show. I'm so excited to get to learn more about you two and your career. We're going to feature 7 songs today, and we're going to feature in its entirety at the end of the show your song "Moment of Joy," which is so beautiful,
Thank you.
as are all of them. And so I thought we could just dive into the interview and talk about how'd you become a band? How'd you meet?
We met in Chicago. Actually, we auditioned one another. We were both looking to either join or form a band. And at the time when we met, neither one of us had found what we were looking for. So we just decided, hey, let's try to form a band together. So yeah, Chicago.
Yep, and that's when we formed it. We in Chicago we started for a few years, and then we had our band together, and then we made the move to LA. We kind of all 4 of us we all moved. The first thing we did was we recorded a demo out in Orange, California, at this place called For the Record. We
That's
went
right.
out
We
with our gear and our trailer and stuff, and made a little EP. Then we came back, and I think we were in Chicago for about a year or so, and then we decided to make the move to found a little bungalow in Hollywood and just moved into that for a while. So that's yeah.
What year was it that you met in Chicago?
Oh God.
Do we have to say?
Oh no, I was just because you can hear what you're so musically connection, and that I can really hear that you've been playing together for so long and you completely speak to each other musically.
Super secret.
Okay. Nobody needs to know. Scratch it.
Go. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Your musical adventure is timeless. There is.
Well, we moved out.
Thank you.
Yeah, we moved out to LA in like 2000. 2001.
Okay.
And we knew each other for a couple years.
I was thinking about that.
That's all right. That's okay.
2011.
Yeah.
Put that up a few years, please. Hello.
Well, I'm not gonna. It is what it is.
Okay.
It's okay. We, there's a story to tell. I mean, it is what it is. So, that's just how it goes.
Well, all I'll say is I just think it's really beautiful that you guys have maintained this musical journey through this whole time. And I mean, you can hear how your music's evolved and changed, and you just seem to understand each other so well and complement each other so well. So I think it's really cool that you've been making music for so long.
Thank you. Good to hear. Yeah.
So about your production process, do you self-produce your music and do you record yourself? Do you work with other producers and engineers? Have you done a little of both?
We worked with other engineers and studios and stuff, but we produced it ourselves, except when we came up here like about 10 years ago and recorded at Rancho de la Luna. Producer Chris Goss brought us up here to record there. So it was an EP that we recorded with him up here. So it was interesting. interesting to work with an experienced producer such as Chris. He's just very creative and likes to mess around with sounds and different things and try to. He has his own signature and he kind of puts on things. It worked for Queens of the Stone Age really well, so we're like, okay, let's see if
Yeah,
it'll
it's
work
great
with
working with
Firebug.
Chris, for sure.
Yeah. So but we're friends and we still keep in touch up here and
Yeah.
stuff. like that,
Other
so.
than that though, everything we've done, we've
Yeah, this
uh,
last release,
done our
no
pretty much on our
return.
own, yeah.
No Return was self-produced, so
Nice.
Yeah.
we went into a different studio for that up here in Joshua Tree. We worked with Charlie Stavish, and he has his own recording studio in his house. And
Great engineer.
yeah, Charlie's worked with like Jenny Lewis, and
A lot of people.
a bunch of people. He's produced and mixed quite a few people and stuff. Over he started like in New York City.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Electric Ladyland Studios.
yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
cool.
He's still here. He's still up here. So
Kind of a famous
Yeah.
studio.
Well, yeah, you guys are in a creative hub. I can't imagine what the creative energy is like out there in Joshua Tree. It's do you feel like you create differently? This is something too, since you've had some time in New Orleans and Los Angeles, Chicago, the desert, Joshua Tree, which is like an energetic hub. Do you feel like you create differently in the different places where you write and record, or does that not have an effect on you?
subliminally, I mean, for myself personally, I mean, it definitely has an effect. Like just when you step outside and the sunsets and the mountains and the desert and all that and the Joshua trees and the cacti and everything, it's it's subconscious after a while. I think it's had an effect. Like, but then I kind of blend that in when we lived in New Orleans. Like kind of just having music
Completely
all
different.
around you, like
Yeah.
music coming down your street all the time, and
Yeah.
it's unique that way in New Orleans, and and here it's like really quiet and like it's like it's the opposite. It's totally opposite of that. So I think the two together, has created a lot more magic for her and
And
I.
there's the whole
like,
Los
in our
Angeles
music, yeah.
experience and coming from Chicago, and I pretty much feel the same way. I mean, every place that I've been, that we've been, has had an influence on me, whether directly or indirectly, subconsciously. In Chicago, growing up listening mostly to rock and soul music. I was, and then working in a blues club for a while, that was a huge influence on me. That left a major stamp on me. And then moving on to Los Angeles was a whole another experience, different being in Hollywood, and obviously very competitive atmosphere. I mean, not that Chicago isn't, but Hollywood's just another, it ramped up just another step, I guess. And then different environments going from the west side to the east side, has different vibes. And then you go to the coast and the mountains and all these different things that influenced me. The environment. I was very influenced by the environment. Hadn't anticipated that happening coming from Chicago.
Yeah.
being a brick and mortar type, from the city or whatever. But that's one of the things I really, really missed when we moved to New Orleans. But then there was New Orleans influencing, us on a massive level too, as well, obviously, because there's so much music and culture everywhere. Music on the street, music in the clubs. And the club and music life there, as you know, it's not just like, at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday or a Saturday. It's like all day, every day.
And all night, all day, all night.
Mostly there are certain neighborhoods that are more quiet than others, but even those neighborhoods, like it could be totally quiet, and then all of a sudden someone will have an impromptu, like they'll declare today's a holiday.
Yeah.
Let's have a second line, and like there'll be all this music everywhere. So yeah, and then so all that influences you, and there are different. Obviously, there's jazz music, and then there's New Orleans, like Creole music and
Dixieland,
right.
a lot of Appalachian music. That's all mixed in
there too.
Yeah,
And then
a lot of stuff.
and then the street culture. Obviously, I mentioned that already, but one of the things that we love so much is just like all the people just playing out in the street. That influences you as well. And then moving back out here, out into the desert, that's completely different. Like, I'm kind of reiterating what Jules had already said, but that it personally has influenced me a lot too, because the environment, with different terrains, the high desert, the low desert, the mountains, the pines, and like the whole nature thing. And then, it's impacted a lot of my writing. There are references to like mountains and pines and trails and things like that, and stars.
Yeah.
A lot of our songs, especially recently. So yeah, that was a very long-winded way to answer your question, but there was something else I was going to say, but I forgot. I don't know.
Well,
Nighttime skies here are beautiful. That's
yeah.
the influence too.
Desert
Well-
stars.
What was that?
The desert stars. Yeah.
There's nothing like it out there.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. It really is. Never get tired of that.
Well, and Juliet, I mean, yeah, and same with you, Jules, like in your instrumentation, and Juliet in your voice, I can hear all like the Appalachian, the gospel, and the blues, and the newer, like I can hear everything in your voice, and you have this like crystal clear, hauntingly beautiful, like operatic voice. Like, could you always sing like that, or did you develop that over time? And it's so cool because when you sing, you like don't even open your mouth, and it's just like crazy sounds come out. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
I open my
Watch you guys
mouth.
perform. Well, you do, but like you don't, like some singers have to really move to get those sounds, and I just feel like it flows through you like naturally. When I saw you guys perform, I was just like amazed. It was so beautiful and cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a combination of different things, a combination of like being born, this hope this doesn't come off as being egotistical,
No.
but being born, being able to sing kind of thing. Like my dad never really pursued being a professional singer, but he just sings naturally, like around the house, like when I was a kid growing up, and he had this really nice sounding voice. I'm like, wow, he really sounds good. But so I always wanted to sing from the time I was a young age. So since I was a little girl, I just one of those things I just intuitively knew.
Mhm.
But so anyway, part of it's that, and time and influences and training. I had
Mhm.
some training too,
Okay. Well, yeah.
so time, yeah. I mean, I sound a bit more mature now than I did like when I was younger. That's just the evolution of, like I said, of time,
Like biology. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's biology.
And the training, I had some great, vocal coaches, Ed Farron in Chicago, who's unfortunately no longer with us. Liz Lewis in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
So yeah, discipline, practicing on a regular basis.
All right.
Yeah.
And Jules, where did you, and thank you for clearing that up, because I was like, how does she do that? I won't give away your secrets though. That's all you need to tell us.
There is no secret. Yeah, it's just being persistent and like keeping at it,
Yeah. And like, so for you, for
Yeah.
Jules, for guitar, if you're welcome, when did you start playing guitar, and who are some of your biggest influences, and what instruments do both of you play? So you're both multi-instrumentalists, so let's talk about that.
So like when I was in high school, I was kind of a late bloomer with guitar. I started with bass kind of at first in high school a little bit. And then around early 20s, mid 20s, I started getting more serious, got a guitar and started playing guitar more. And then at that time I was going to University of California in Santa Barbara. And then I was able to audition, and I got into the music department there, which is it's all classical there.
Nice.
And went through all that, and my best friends there were in music school.
Nice.
The drummer I played with, he was a drum major, and the bass player was a bass major, and we had a rock band thing. We had our like Isla Vista like rock band thing that people do like when they live in Santa Barbara and they go to school there. So we did that for about 3.5, 4 years, and then but that's where I got my chops, kind of working with other people or my friends. As I was able to bounce my ideas at the time were new, but like I was able to kind of like have these really good musicians around me, like to kind of work with, and they were also my good friends. And then after school, we all moved to Los Angeles and built a recording studio, and we did that for a little bit before I went to Chicago to meet Juliet. So like,
Okay.
that it just didn't pan out that way that well. Just everybody kind of went their separate ways. But that's kind of that's and influence wise. I mean, I guess at that time I was I was really into a lot of the Seattle sound bands.
Yeah.
Like Soundgarden. I was
Mm.
a huge fan like of Chris Cornell's music and just the band itself. And mostly like that sound and of course earlier like a lot of classic rock bands like of course like Led Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and all that stuff too. I guess our band when I was in college and stuff we were more kind of influenced with like kind of Seattle sound a little bit like kind of bigger Seattle bands and stuff, so like kind of going more in that direction. And but then when I met Juliet, when I moved back to Chicago, I met at the blues club. She was working at Kingston Mines, and then I got to kind of take in more blues artists. So like the blues rubbed off on me more from being around Juliet and in the bar scene there in the blues club. So that just and from her too, not just from the blues, but she was more like influenced with that. So kind of took that in, and it just kind of I don't know. I feel like I'm in a really good place right now. I've taken in a lot of different things when we lived in New Orleans. Just kind of like a lot of the rhythmical vibes there, like just the lot of the old school New Orleans funk, and there's even like there's a lot of African drumming culture there and different things like and I applied that to guitar, so there's kind of a rhythmical kind of thing that I never used to have that I do now from living in New Orleans, and I kind of brought that here to Joshua Tree, so I'm kind of a little bit mixed up, but like I still love to rock though. I'm all like writing like all these like proggy rock riffs and stuff lately, but they're like that's kind of like I'm kind of different, going different, kind of bringing in a lot of different styles, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's like psychedelic rock, like taking rock music and then adding all those rhythms and making it a rock composition. And that's what you guys are, a psychedelic band too. I would say by listening to it, you're just great, awesome fusion. We've just got a couple minutes before we go out to break. And then we'll talk about Juliet's musicianship and then maybe a little bit about recording. But I'm going to let my musicians, hello musicians. I'm going to let my listeners know, our listeners, that you're listening to the Arwen Lewis Show. And my special guests here today are Firebug. You can find out about them on firebugmusic.com, on all the social media platforms under Firebug Music. Look them up on your favorite listening platforms under Firebug. And do you guys have any shows coming up that you want to promote, or are you focusing a little more on recording and practicing?
Our next show, we're doing a podcast. It's called Red Light District Podcast. It's in Oxnard.
Nice.
And that's in mid-August, I think, sometime. And at the end of August, we're performing at a fundraiser for Corazon in Topanga. Okay. So they're Gio runs it and owns it and stuff, or rents it, or I'm not sure how that works out over there. But she's trying to hold on to it right now. Like they're going through some stuff, so she's raising money. Okay. I don't know if you've ever been there before, but it's very unique. It's really cool. Yeah. It's like a performance arts center. It's just unique, and the sound's really good. They got a really nice stage, and if you're ever in that area, I would highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
Like eclectic venue. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of character. Yeah. Right in the middle of Topanga.
Oh, well, yeah, you got to fundraise and save it. Thank you for, making an effort to keep the arts alive in Topanga.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you'll be posting about that on your social media and stuff, so your listeners.
Yeah.
Okay. So
up here in Joshua Tree, I mean, things will pop up in the fall and stuff. Yeah. And we could talk more about stuff. We're also doing some other stuff. We're working with another producer this next month too as well. So we could talk more about that after you break.
Yeah, let's talk about that when we come back. You're listening to Arwen Lewis. My guests are Firebug, firebugmusic.com, at Firebug Music on social media. We're going to take you out to break with Firebug's song, St. Elmo's Fire, and we'll bring you back in with their song, No Return. please enjoy. And we'll see you in a minute.
I love that song.
Which one?
Stayed on the Wood-
All of 'em. Yeah. Did you hear Jeremiah? Oh, he loves your songs. He
Oh.
loves St. Elmo's Fire. Me too.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
cool.
Thank
Thanks. That's
you.
good to hear.
Yeah.
I was influenced by being out here, I was in our backyard one night. And it was after, it's a rare thing when it storms here, but it stormed. And, I was saying, well, not always, but sometimes I like to just go back out in the yard at night and just like, stare at the sky or whatever.
I
Zen
love it.
out, wherever. And I was standing out by our tree. We have one tree out there. And I was at the corner of our house, like around the perimeter of the roof. I could swear, you might think I'm nuts, but like, I thought I saw this like aura of like light, like energy around the roof of our house. It's depending on how you were looking at the sky. I don't know, the corner of my eye. It looked like it's really interesting. So I Googled it. And turns out there's an actual meaning for that. It's a phenomenon that occurs sometimes after storms around St. Elmo's Fire, like different ships, like out at sea after a storm, like what do you call it? Where there are angles, things come together or whatever.
Oh, Cornerstone? No, I don't know. Don't ask me. I'm just
What's the
no vocabulary.
A boat and ship the bow or the way?
Oh, you mean
boat.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Where there are angles, and then
I don't know.
with the sail, something to do with the sail having an angle along with the boat or something like that, or a ship. I don't know.
That's
There's
cool.
this energy like this
Jeremiah's Googling it right now
bluish kind of light.
with a bluish light.
The 5 points of sail.
The 5.
describe the angles a sailboat can sail
So anyway.
relative to the wind. Close
That's where that came from.
Close reach, bearing away from the wind, beam reach, or broad reach.
We don't look like we're sweating over here, do we?
Oh no, I'm like I'm sweating in here. I give up. I try to do my makeup and just
Yeah.
Let me type in St. Elmo's Fire after that.
say okay, and then she's gonna look up St. Elmo's Fire, and then we'll come back.
We're serious desert rats here. We have a swamp cooler and it's like 104. We're crazy.
Well, you guys look great. You have a healthy desert glow. Sitting in the studio
Thank you.
sweating.
Yeah, it's warm in here too. Trust me. Yeah.
Patron saint of fire, St. Elmo's Fire often occurred on the masts of sailing vessels following a terrifying storm. The angle.
Huh.
Doesn't have a term though. It says you just.
So yeah, St. Elmo's Fire, ships, storm. I guess that might be.
After
Bring up something.
Just something that happens after a terrible storm, like what you described on the mast of the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like an energy. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's so cool that you saw that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
That's what I thought I saw. And so I went with it.
yeah.
Well, there's like in Texas, there's like you've heard of Marfa, right? Marfa, Texas.
Yeah.
Like, Marfa's kind of like sort of there's some music stuff going on there, and it's kind of one of those go-to places for artists at times and stuff. But they have like the Marfa lights, which is like these people, you like stand out looking over like a field, and you can't see them all the time, but like some people say, oh, it's kind of sort of like that, like kind of the St. Elmo's Fire effect kind of thing, so.
Yeah, I have friends out there that
Has that kind of thing going on, where
Yep.
it's a actual tourist like kind of place, like where they
Well, you
check
could
it.
go up north.
ruins the vibe.
yeah.
Was a divine sign leading them to continue on the journey.
It was a-
divine sign.
So Jeremiah just said St. Elmo's Fire was a divine sign leading them on through their journey.
Yeah,
Oh,
isn't
yeah,
that cool?
Yeah.
Okay.
History 101 on the Arwen Lewis show.
There
Firebug.
you go.
Can we go ahead?
Yeah, when you're ready.
Okay, what do I
You've got on this one, you can do 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Mhm.
12 minutes. Good morning, everybody. You're listening to the Arwen Lewis Show. My very special guests here today are Firebug, desert rock band from Joshua Tree, California, with roots in Chicago, Los Angeles, and New Orleans. You just heard their song No Return. And we're here talking about their music, their careers as musicians, and experience in instrumentation and recording and performing and writing songs. You can find out more about them at firebugmusic.com. Find them on social media at Firebug Music. And don't go anywhere. At the end of the show, we're going to play in its entirety their song Moment of Joy as their featured track. So Jules and Juliet, hi again.
I
So we finished up before the break talking about Jules, your background in music. You have a education from UCSB in classical music, right? And then you got into the rock scene there, and then you met Juliet in Chicago. And Juliet, we heard about your singing adventure as a, getting some training and how you developed your sound as a vocalist. But you also play quite a few instruments, right? So when did you start learning how to play music? What inspired you, and what instruments do you play?
well, I started singing first. That was my
Okay.
first thing. At a very young age, a little girl, not professionally, but something I always wanted to do. I kind of picked up the guitar a little bit when I was like, gosh, how old was I? Like 8.
Oh, wow.
But then I put it down for a long time until I was a teenager. That's really when I started. Then I got in my first band when I was 16. It was like a hard rock band. I just sang then. I play a little bit of guitar then, but it's mostly bar chords, like it came up sounding like punk songs. Everything I wrote. And a little bit of singer-songwriter-ish kind of stuff. But so yeah, guitar, it was voice and then guitar. And it wasn't until I started working again, going back to the blues club experience at Kingston Mines in Chicago, that I really started playing guitar even more. I saw so many great saw and heard so many great singers and musicians that I literally would get off sometimes at 4 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 5 if it was Saturday, because they have 5 a.m. licenses in Chicago on Saturdays. I would come home almost at the crack of dawn sometimes and start practicing guitar, because they were so good. I was like, oh boy, like I need to practice.
Yeah.
So I started taking guitar more seriously, and over the process and course of time, et cetera, kept at it for a while, and then so mostly just voice and guitar, and then probably about not quite. Well, maybe about 10 years ago, we bought this Roland keyboard, which is kind of has like sounds where you can mimic a B3 and all that.
Okay.
And it kind of sat around, collected dust. Bought it in Hollywood, Guitar Center in Hollywood,
Nice.
before we moved to New Orleans. And for me, on my end, it kind of just sat around, collected dust for a while. A very sad thing. But anyway, we moved to New Orleans. There it was, and I was like,
yeah. That was
you
your
know,
time.
yeah. Well, we moving to New Orleans. This is kind of weird. I just thought of this right now, but it makes total sense because everything's more closer together. Hopefully, I'm not getting off topic, but
No.
like when I mean closer together, I mean like literally it takes you less time to get everywhere.
Yeah.
So that equates to save time. So all the time not driving from the east side to the west side and traffic in LA, et cetera, equated to time practicing. And so I was like, that allowed more time for me to try new things. So I started playing a little bit of keyboard, but not as much as I should have. The emphasis was even stronger on guitar at that time. But then fast forward, moving out here to the desert during COVID, I really I went more into playing keyboard even more, learning piano, and like I dug out some old like books, tried to learn how to teach myself how to sight read a little bit. I knew a little bit. I knew how to sight read already, but like anyway, rambling.
That's all right.
So the last few years, really more so keyboard. So that's a relatively new thing for me. And a little bit of mandolin.
I love her keyboard writing. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's opened up so many doors for me, like working with her. Like, I mean, even her whole approach, like vocally and stuff, is like, it's just taken a whole, I would say it's not a different turn, but it's just, I don't know. She's really like, just
Well, it's opened up,
broadened her
it's
whole
opened up more
scope
more
and her whole
more
approach.
doors and it's just it's
Well, and because the notes that you play, you like, I mean, classical music, obviously you're doing that too if you're classically trained. But I really find simplicity just as profound. And each note really hits you a little more because they're more defined. And like it's like you almost use like white noise when you're playing piano, and then your voice and then your guitar or the bass or whatever you're doing. I can't remember, Jules. Do you loop stuff too, or do you just play guitar or just bass?
What's
When
that?
Juliet's playing. I can't remember if you use a looper or not. Do you
Juliet uses a looper.
you
Yeah.
do? Okay.
Yeah.
on some songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some songs I'll use a looper for guitar. And then when that's going, and he's playing guitar too, but for different coloring. And then
Right.
depending on the song, so when the looper's going, I'll go over to the keyboard and play a little bit on the keyboard. So just to kind of create more
Yeah. Atmosphere.
Yeah.
There's been a couple shows where like I also brought a bass, like
Right, okay.
some, but I wouldn't loop it. I would just
Okay.
play the bass along with what she was doing.
Okay.
But as a duo, I like to hold down the grounding with the acoustic guitar more the whole time, because it's, I don't know, it just fits more to me. Like instead of like having all these different things looping, like it's nice to have a bottom end and stuff, but then there's no drummer and stuff. I mean, I don't know, it's just
Yeah.
kind of like, then you have to think about that too. Like, you're gonna like add drums and stuff. So it seems to be working out pretty well, so.
Yeah, when I saw you guys live, like the whatever, Juliet, when you were on the guitar and then the keys and then you were just playing acoustic guitar, it sounded really nice and full. And I agree with you. If that's just what you're doing, you don't necessarily need a bass unless you have a drummer and like a rhythm section. You're doing rhythm with what you got already.
Yeah.
What about like for recording? How does your like recording and how does your writing process work? Do you write all of your songs? Do you do any covers, or are they specifically original?
We've done all originals.
Okay.
In the studio, yeah.
Yeah.
Most, I mean, once in a while we'll play a cover song. We
Okay.
we throw in a few blues songs here and there.
Nice.
What else have we've done some Fleetwood Mac,
Nice. Yeah.
covers in the past. Haven't done that in a while though. Yeah, we just focus on writing our own stuff for the most part.
Yeah. It's weird with like, with female fronted stuff, it's like they're waiting for like a hardcover or something, or like, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
No, we do that.
But we don't. I was
Great.
making
I mean,
I was making a point, like we don't do that though. Like when we were in New Orleans, like doing more blues stuff, like a lot more blues stuff in New Orleans.
Yeah.
On the street even, and in some venues, we had our own blues residency. Like we had a band though, but we were doing
nice.
it. But Juliet would be saying like Howlin' Wolf and Johnny Lee Hooker and like,
Awesome.
yeah.
I was speaking all the dude songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like all the Chess Records, old
Oh,
Stone
yeah.
stuff.
Oh my God,
like,
yeah.
all
All
that
that,
stuff.
oh my God, the old Stone stuff is.
See, that's all Chicago stuff, like Chess
Yeah.
Records. And like, yeah. So like we tapped in a lot of that. Like when we were living in New Orleans, like just, because that comes natural to Juliet. Like you kind of grew up listening to a lot of that Chess Records, Stone stuff. She's a huge Stones fan.
Because my mom, well, not to get off topic, but my mom being from Ireland, but growing up in England, was always telling me stories when she was coming of age. She used to go into law. Her cousin used to go to school, a London School of Economics with Mick Jagger. And so I would hear all these stories about like they would go down to London to see the Rolling Stones, like when they were playing clubs.
Yeah. Oh,
So I
wow.
was like, wow, like total fascination, So, when I was like a little kid, I was like, I had to go out and like buy everything Rolling Stones, like from the beginning, like way like back to chess records or whatever, or early stuff to the later stuff, all the great stuff. Well, I shouldn't say all the great stuff. All their stuff is great, really, according to me.
Well, and I mean, those are just classics, and the crowd always loves them. And by the way, that's so cool. So you would like do busking on the street, or was there like a
Oh,
street
yeah.
scene? Like, that's just what people do in New Orleans, right? I know that.
Yeah.
What was that like?
You know, I mean, there's a lot of people, you know, vying for a space, and
Yeah.
you know, it's first come, first serve, and you just have to every day if you're, but you know, if you go out there,
Challenging.
it
Yeah.
can be. We
But-
were pretty much like regulars in like Jackson Square
Yeah.
after we did it for a little while, but we also played like we would perform on Royal and St. Anne, which is a great spot, and we got featured on Royal and St. Anne, like the city, like a picture of us, and like the Vinyl District. I don't know if you know who they are, but if you look them up on Instagram, like there's a picture of us, like her and I, like on Royal Street and stuff, and
Oh my
we're
God,
getting
love it.
attention, like
We played
doing
like
that, like-
venues too, but like, you
Yeah.
know, whatever came to our way, I mean, obviously we like to play, so sometimes venues, sometimes on the street, and depending on the weather and
Well, it's a thing.
not during
um,
hurricanes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And also such a cool part of the counterculture of rock. That's what I love about, rock music and all of this that you're doing. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back from our break. You're
Okay.
listening to Firebug on the Arwen Lewis radio show. We're going to take you out with their song Change and bring you back in with their beautiful song Wine, Water, and Bread. We'll see you in a minute.